Welcome to 4K Motoring. I'm Chris. He's Nate. And today we're talking about the new Nissan 2023 Z.
Possibly 2022.
Yeah, coming out in 2022, but a 2023 year model, I think is what they call it.
Okay.
So we're just going to kind of share our thoughts on it here. I know you guys have seen the news on it. So I got to say it's a pretty appealing product. I like what they're doing.
I really like personally the design and the style of it. I think it looks phenomenal.
A much needed update, that's for sure. The last one was in for what, like 14 years, I think, is what they did the last one.
Yes, the last refresh was was in 2007.
Yeah.
So
for the 370. Yep. So quite a while. The new Z, some call it a 400Z, but it's not a 4-liter. It's just a 3-liter. So
right.
400 horsepower.
They're saying 400 horsepower.
Right. So it's not really a 400Z, but the new Z. It built off the same chassis because that's what Nissan does. So they're still using that.
It'd be interesting to see what they do with the suspension.
Yeah.
If they're tuning the suspension differently, or if it's just going to be a very similar setup to the way the 370 was.
Right. I mean, from what I've heard, they're using the same chassis, but the wheelbase measurements look like they're just fractionally off.
Yeah, a little bit wider track width too.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's been some new suspension tuning and so forth for that, without a doubt. But
so, what I'm worried about is that it's going to be a heavy pig. I owned a 2008 G37S Infiniti, which was rated at 333 horsepower, which back in its day was a great number, except for that car weighed 3,800 pounds. So it was a fat pig.
So, I mean, the Corvette Stingray, the C8 Stingray, is 3,600 pounds. That is not a light car by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't really hear anybody calling that a pig.
Yeah. Well, it also has almost 500 horsepower, so it's got the power to push the pig.
Sure. Well, we're talking about 400 here now with the Z, so I think we're
and I loved my Infiniti, the G37, but the entire time I owned it, I said it needed a turbocharger. So
they gave you two of them.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm excited to drive it and see how it rides and see how it drives.
Mm-hmm, for sure. I drove just briefly the 370Z, a manual transmission car, and it was a fun car for sure. I mean, it did what it was supposed to do. It was a front engine, rear wheel drive, manual transmission car. Nothing really jumped out as special about it with its, like you said, the power to weight I think was a bigger issue, where it's 300, 320, 350 horsepower depending on the year and the generation.
Yeah. I know when it debuted it was 333 horsepower, but the torque was only 276, I believe.
Yeah, so we can pull up here to make sure I get the exact right specs. So 332 to 350 horsepower depending on the version right now. And your GoPro just turned off, so that's nice.
I didn't know it was even on.
So let's go to Nissan directly and see what they're saying here from it. Obviously, the VQ engine is awesome. I love the noise of it. It's a great motor, in my opinion.
I have always loved the exhaust note of the 350, the 370, and the Infiniti G Series cars.
Yeah.
The exhaust tuning and the note that it puts out, I think more manufacturers need to concentrate on that.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I know Donut Media did a full video on just the noise and the engineering behind the VQ, which we'll link here. But looking at the specs from Nissan here, the current Z that's out, the base car, 332 horsepower and 270 foot-pounds of torque, and the Nismo version bumps it up just a little bit to 350 horsepower and 276 foot-pounds of torque. So now the new one, we're talking about 400 horsepower, 350 foot-pounds of torque. That torque boost is a little bit more significant, I think, than that horsepower boost.
And with it being a twin turbo, that torque is going to hit a lot sooner too.
Yes, yeah, this small twin turbo, it's going to be not much lag. I think that's a great package. And I know they're going to do manual transmission as standard, which is awesome that they're still doing that. And the rear limited slip mechanical diff on at least the performance model, so maybe not the base one. sounds like that's going to create a pretty decent package.
I'm interested to see when they finally come out with the trim specs what the base model is going to come with, interior wise and suspension wise, as compared to the performance model.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if we can kind of build and price a current one here, and if they'll let us. I don't know if we can, and just see what options we have with their one right now. So it's showing right now on Nissan's website the 2020 Nissan 370Z is sold out, is their listing for it. So I don't have an option to build or price. So they are done with making it.
Yeah, it's probably because it's discontinued.
Yep, they are done with it. So I know, looking back to the C5 Corvette, the 2004 year model for that was basically a holdover. They didn't want the 1983 thing to happen again, where they didn't really have a year model car for that, so they just kept making the same one a little bit into that year to have a 2004. They made a commemorative edition for it while they were setting up to build the C6. So I'm sure that's what they're doing here. It's the same machine, same platform, just tweaking it all, adding the new stuff.
Reading about the Nissan Z this morning, I came across an interesting Road and Track article, which we can put a link to. But Nissan sent numbers over to Project Cars 3, which is a racing simulator, and in the simulation on the video game, they gave the Nissan Z prototype 444 horsepower with a curb weight of 3,250 pounds, which gives it a power to weight ratio better than a Lotus Evora GT.
Right.
Which, if they can even come close to that, for that price, is going to be pretty phenomenal.
I think we're going to see, not right away, but eventually, a Nismo version that'll probably be very similar to that.
Right.
I don't think that's going to start sub $40,000, no. But I think that is, with the platform of the car, Nissan does generally make a good, as other people have said, a blank slate sort of platform that you can do a whole lot to, kind of make it your own. And I think that's definitely a possibility for that.
Another car that's been in the news a lot lately is the new Toyota GR86 and the new BRZ.
Or more appropriately, the BRZ that Toyota also makes.
Right, correct.
So that car starts at just under $29,000, which makes it pretty tempting. I know they say the new Z is going to start just sub 40, so $10,000 more, we'll say.
So you had the gas mileage numbers pulled up. Mm-hmm. So why does the BRZ Limited get such better gas mileage than the BRZ TS? What's the difference there?
So I know there's no performance mods that I know of, like engine stuff, but it does have bigger, more performance oriented wheels instead of the efficient wheels and tires that the regular one has, which is an issue. I don't know if there's any.
Oh, and so this, I'm sorry, and what I was talking about is still the 2020 BRZ, not the new redesigned one. But I do know the new GR and the new BRZ, the gas mileage is going down even more. So that's.
But the speeds are going up.
Speeds are going up, gas mileage down, but that's still a disappointment because it wasn't great gas mileage to begin with. And when you're only talking a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, that should be a benefit of going with a smaller engine.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a lot of gearing, because they've said that the new one especially is bringing back some older gearing and some quicker gearing, which when you crank up engine RPMs, you're just going to lose gas mileage.
They're decreasing the 0 to 60 by over a second.
Yeah.
From 7.2 down to 6.1
right.
with the manual transmission. And the manual transmission is still faster, 0 to 60, than the automatic.
Right, which I think says more about their automatic than anything else. But
right. It is a torque, traditional torque converter automatic, so it's not going to have spectacular quick shifts or anything like that. So
right. But overall, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see with a car that, $28,000 for the base, $32,000 for the premium trim of the Subaru Toyota car. So that's the same. If you're paying $32-ish for that car, do you step up another couple $1,000s to get the base Z? Or $10,000 is kind of a big spread. But if you're talking $5,000, that's kind of a
I mean, when you're getting the Subaru or the Toyota with a premium trim, Alcantara seats, with Alcantara heated seats, Alcantara trim, the sportier wheels and suspension for $32,000.
Right.
Base model Z.
So the base Model Z, you're getting the 400 horsepower. You're getting a manual transmission. You're getting not the limited slip rear diff, but still rear wheel drive. Is that enough? I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm sure the limited slip obviously makes it a better car to drive, but
I personally would feel like if I had the Toyota or the Subaru, that I would want to put a supercharger in that. But then when you get into that, or supercharger or a turbocharger,
right?
So some type of boosted acceleration. And when you get into that, then you're going to have to upgrade a wheel and tire package for more grip, possibly better suspension, better brakes to handle the power.
Now you're adding weight.
With a Nissan, I don't feel like that would be necessary.
Right.
Because you're starting with that already, and then maybe do a couple minor mods from there.
Yeah, I think that's right. The BRZ, the new one, it's not so much, if you look at the numbers, they didn't boost the performance a whole lot, but they did boost it, and the biggest way they boosted it was the actual curve. They brought the torque on stronger and kept it on. It used to have this really tall initial peak, and then it would dip down really low and then start climbing again.
Right.
And they fixed that so it climbs up, and then it still has a small dip, but it's nowhere near what it was before. So you can pretty much get in it and keep pulling, and significantly more power for that platform at least. And it's still light. I mean, this is under 3,000 pounds.
Yeah, it was 2,800 pounds, I think, was the number, which for modern cars is ridiculously light. I mean, the only thing I think else close to that is like a new Miata.
Right. And that's, I mean, just with all the safety stuff they have to have, I mean, it's hard to do that to be that light anymore to meet all the standards.
And the Toyota and Subaru and other trims does have the adaptive cruise control and the lane assistant stuff.
That's true. Nissan with their IntelliShield or whatever the Nissan one is, safety shield. I forget what Nissan calls their thing, but I don't know if that's going to be on this new one. I've not seen a lot about that. They've been putting it on more of their cars and stuff in the future. I imagine everything's going that way, so it'll have some tech. I don't know what tech it will have.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see when they release more information.
Yeah, I'm certainly excited about it. So with that in mind, so you could go out to the store and potentially buy, a new BRZ or GR86 for $30,000. You can go buy the Z for somewhere around $40,000. So from your point of view, you've got the now almost 20 years old Porsche 911. How does that compare? Is that something that would be considering buying a new one over that, or?
It's funny you bring that up because I've been thinking about that a lot.
Yeah.
Since I started reading about the Z and the GR86.
Right.
It's a compelling argument for a brand new car with brand new car reliability with those kind of numbers and that styling. But at the end of the day, if you go out and buy a new car, there's going to be depreciation. Our cars currently aren't depreciating.
No, they have depreciated.
Yes, yes,
for sure. And they're depreciating, but they're also breaking down more, costing you money.
Right.
Whereas these aren't costing you that money, so where are you losing the most?
I mean, can you trust it on a 600-mile road trip,
right?
Without getting stuck somewhere?
Yeah, the confidence level is low, and then if you do break down, are people going to have parts for it where you go?
Right.
Your new car, you go to a Toyota dealership, Nissan dealership, they're everywhere. You can go to a shop that'll have the parts, find the new ones.
And you shouldn't have to worry about that for at least a few years.
Right, hopefully, right.
So it is a compelling argument that I've been thinking about a lot the past few days, because I think with the value of my car, I could probably almost do a straight trade with either one, whether selling it personally or trading it in with the value of the 911s how they are currently.
For sure. And even the Corvette, I mean, I picked that up for $10,000, put quite a bit into it since, but they've gone up in a huge way. So even that's not putting me too far off of.
And all the stuff that you've done to your car is only increasing its value and at least the easeability of selling it.
Yeah, it makes it more desirable a little bit for at least the buyer that would be looking for a car like that.
Especially when you get the infotainment done, which
Yep.
you're still waiting on some parts for.
Yeah, just one wiring harness, but to have that overall ready to go. So I think that'll. I mean, it's the older cars. Yes, you get into a little bit cheaper if you can find one that there's still parts for and it's still fun. Hey, good for you. You can tailor that and make it exactly what you want it to be, which is a plus. Whereas these are still kind of mass market, made for the enthusiast, but all enthusiasts, not you specifically, right? So there will no doubt be an aftermarket for these that's going to be huge, but it's also going to be new parts, expensive parts. So modifying is not going to be probably as cheap as, maybe not for you, but on my aspect.
Everything Porsche triples the price just because it has Porsche in the name. So
Right. And Corvette, I mean, they've made so many of those, and there's so many aftermarkets for those.
Right.
They're really, for that level of car, that's not an expensive aftermarket to get into, which is awesome. So it's compelling. I like the way the industry's going. There's fun cars now coming out in the next couple of years.
a few years ago, there was pretty much nothing to buy, and now all of a sudden we're getting inundated with all these new models, new and exciting models. I mean, last year they had the Supra.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have the 86, the C8 Corvette, the 400Z.
Right. They're bringing back names like Integra. Don't know if it's gonna be the same type of car, but the Honda Civic Type R is not a bad car.
No,
It's not the same rear-wheel drive.
It's hard for me to get on board with it just because it's front-wheel drive.
Right.
But for a front-wheel drive car, it is pretty impressive.
Sure. So I love it. I love to see that. And the manual transmission's not dead. The gasoline engine's not dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what we'll see in the next couple of years, but I think there's going to be a few more of these before they finally die out. That's for sure.
I hope people buy these cars so that manufacturers are incentivized to keep building them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that would be awesome. And with that, I kind of would like to think that with the electric cars coming out, people that just want commuter cars, people that just want to save money on a vehicle are going to be leaning towards electric for that aspect. So the people buying gasoline engines still are the enthusiasts, the people that want that motor, want that roar, want the experience of driving. Yeah. So maybe the gasoline cars in the future will be more of these out because that's what sells for these type of cars.
More performance oriented over
right, efficiency or just eco-box movement.
Boring A to B commuters.
Right, like the Sentra I drove the other day, a 2011 Nissan Sentra SR trim was the most bland driving experience I've ever had, just about. I mean, it did nothing that it moved, it went, it stopped, it turned, it did the things the car was supposed to do, but it didn't do any of them in a way that I can't explain how numb it made me feel and how much I hated that.
What is that, 108 horsepower probably back in the day?
I think it's 120, somewhere in there. But it just, it did nothing. I mean, it was a very numb experience, and it just leaves you empty inside.
Yes. Top Gear, one of my favorite Top Gear videos that they did. It was one of the last ones they did where they made a video about the people that drive those type of cars. And they were always crashing into everything and backing into stuff and running off the road. And
absolutely. The fastest vehicle I've seen on the road lately is a 2007 Nissan Altima, because they just seem to be going by everybody in the left-hand lane, 130 miles an hour. Nobody's wearing seatbelts. 3 of the rims are black. The headlight's missing, but it's just finding a way. Right? I don't know. Maybe that's what we should be looking at. 2007 Nissan Altima.
Maybe.
Seems like the fastest car I see.
Flies under the radar.
Into the barriers. Yeah, absolutely. But I haven't heard of any other cars coming out lately that are truly like the JDM style, that are single manufacturer like Nissan is. The 86 and the BRZ, Subaru and Toyota getting together, Toyota and BMW with the Supra. Toyota, I guess they don't like to do their own thing a lot. I guess that's
apparently they rely on everybody else for their funness.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm realizing here. But domestic manufacturers, sure, they've done some sharing of like tech. That's a whole conversation for another video, I think. I think we could go on and on about that. But Nissan's hit the mark. I mean, they're where they need to be.
Yeah.
It'd be quite interesting to see where they finally price out at and what the official specs end up being once they release them all.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Yep. So, with that, any other thoughts?
No, I think that was pretty good discussion.
Yeah, I'm excited for the future. I was dreading it a little bit, seeing the electric stuff, some of it taking hold, but I think the performance cars still clawing and not letting go. So.
Be interested to see what company comes in first with more entry level sporty hybrid cars, and if that.
Yeah, like to see that. I mean,
I'm sure it'll be. I thought Toyota would have brought one by now, with the way that they've been doing a performance oriented hybrid with their drivetrains thus far.
Right.
But,
Yeah, we'll see, because independent drive motors, I mean, you can do a lot with that type of platform.
But then you're most definitely going to lose a manual transmission. You're not going to have a manual transmission with a hybrid.
No.
So
No, that's not going to happen. So I don't know. I think the straight engine, internal combustion engine's not dead.
yeah,
Won't be for a little while yet.
hopefully gas stays cheap.
Right. Right. Yeah, or at least less people using it, it'll be cheaper.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. But
Thanks for watching, and
we'll see you next time.